Welcome to the Thriving Misfits, the podcast where we celebrate resilience, embrace diversity, and challenge norms. I'm your host, Fiona Young, and today we're joined by the remarkable Jimmy Lai, a trailblazer in the realms of education, technology, and entrepreneurship. Jimmy's journey is not only defined by his passion for innovation, but also his commitment to diversity and inclusion. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, Jimmy brings a unique perspective to his leadership roles, including his experience leading an LGBTQ network during his MBA studies. So join us as we explore Jimmy's inspiring story, delving into his exploration of diversity, inclusion, and the intersectionality of identity in the ever-evolving landscape of education, technology, and entrepreneurship. So welcome, Jimmy, to our podcast.
Yay! Thanks for inviting, Fiona.
Absolutely. Jimmy, I think we met each other, I believe in 2017 or 18, right? Yeah, where you were still with OnGrad.
And before COVID, I would say. That's a different world that we were living in.
Yes, and we still managed to keep in touch after all these years, and it's amazing to see your journey.
And thank you. I was so happy that I got your message on LinkedIn because I still remember our conversation before, and I do feel we were quite connected, even in a short conversation where we were really listening to each other, and really that's one of the fulfilling conversations that I've had, because I feel like, oh, we really found someone that really matched each other and listened to each other, and help each other even in Korea.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Always love to stay connected with you. All right, so let's kick it off with the rapid fire round of questions. Let me give you this one question, really funny one. So, what is the most awkward moment you've experienced while trying to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I need to start with saying there are actually a lot of awkward moments. So if I have to pick one, I got a coworker asking me, if you put pronouns after your name, does that mean you're gay or lesbian? And the moment I got that, I was like, no, I just tell her no, because that's actually not true, right?
Yeah.
And I told her, no, it's just because you have to respect how people want to know about their gender identity. And it helps, taking away your guesses from them, because sometimes your gender is different from how you wear or how you want to be identified. So, well, I felt like, I actually feel being trusted, right? Like when people ask you this question, even how nonsense it was, but it was actually a very important step that they took, because they know that you're someone that can answer that question.
Absolutely. They see you as an expert in that field, but I think it's also having that vulnerability on their end to be very candid with their question, right? For me, I think it's not only with regards to gender identity, because now we're working in a globalized world, and some of the names may not be very apparent what gender it is. So it's actually quite helpful too, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So let me give you one more question. So, what's your go-to joke or icebreaker to lighten the mood during diversity and inclusion discussions?
This is the hard one, actually. I mean, like, Fiona and I are, quite, doing a lot of facilitation. And one of the most important points is you have to know about the audience. And I would say, usually with adults, it's easy. I'm telling you, it's the kids, and also, sometimes I would say the teenagers are the trouble ones. I experimented a lot with the people with that age group, and I found out that it's usually better for them to share who they like, and they usually can share more, because they feel embarrassed to share more about themselves. So I would rather have them to tell, oh, can you tell us one influencer or YouTuber that you like? And then usually there were other people who also subscribe to them. So it's easy for them to, form groups early on as well. That's one of the tricks that I like to do.
Wow, that's great. And I also feel very intimidated, to be honest, to be leading like a workshop for kids. I've done that once in Singapore, and they are just so energetic, but at the same time they're very honest, right? Like all their questions or the way they communicate is so transparent. There is no like trying to beat around the bushes or trying to read between the lines. They're just very transparent and direct, which I really love, but at the same time can also get very intimidating.
Exactly. It could go on like out of control like very quickly.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's dive right into your identity. I would love to hear, and maybe you would be open to share a pivotal moment from your childhood or maybe your adolescence that helped you shape your understanding of your personal identity and how that influenced your journey to where you are today.
This is a big question, but after all these years, I felt I can finally confidently share about my identity. I grew up knowing myself being gay for a long time. Like I realized that I'm attracted to males like since maybe early teens, I would say, like when I'm like in middle school.
Mm,
But I think in this male dominant society, I realized when you're being different, it only attracts people to bully you, and also you get a lot of disadvantage because people can take that as your weakness, and take it as like, oh, you're gay. It means like you're a failure. It can mean that you're different. You're like a psychic, whatever. So that really makes me to kind of hide my identity and try to fix it by dating girls. So I feel sorry about like that I wasted so many girls' time as well, right? And I would say to a point where I feel like I really feel tough when I had to memorize female adult porn stars to prove
okay.
that I'm actually like a straight man.
Wow.
So the like it's there are a lot of struggles where I think a lot of people in our community would share because like people are not comfortably out of the closet, meaning being out as gay.
Mm.
Um, I even went to a pub where, Shenzhen karaoke, where my clients brought some karaoke girls to sit with me. I got two beside me, where
Wow.
I don't know what to do with them. So there are a lot of like these funnier stories, and one day I just realized, okay, I don't feel like this is what I want. I feel like I'm not being myself.
Mm.
So I really need to thank my postgrad school in Seattle because that was one of the best decisions I made in life. In Seattle is a school where there are more than like 80 nationalities in their batch in their MBA, and we celebrate differences. We just love being different, and not just that, I think people are super smart. Still remember one of the ice-breaking activities we did was that I shared 10 pictures of myself. And one of the pictures, I went to um, Sabah to climb, one of the mountains there.
Mm.
And we were wearing matching shoes with my partner. So one of my classmates asked, "Oh, is that your partner?
Mm.
You guys look so cute in the matching shoes." And that was so natural. I didn't feel the need to kind of like come out to everyone. And people were just like so welcoming and just accepted, you
Mm.
know, Jimmy as who he is, and he was willing to share one of his stories. And no one actually felt, awkward. And that feeling was so special because it's like you were telling this lie for 20 few years, and people were kind of like talking to you like behind and like suspected, oh, Jimmy, I haven't seen him really like gone in a relationship with girls. Versus, the ice-breaking session the first day at INSEAD, I didn't even need to come out. And it was so natural. And I think my life kind of like changed completely after, just being honest. And it
Wow.
feels so good.
Wow. And it's not, you would expect to do an MBA to perhaps like I understand how can you transition your careers or maybe like widen your network. But actually INSEAD or the MBA program supported you to finally be and finally embrace your identity. Wow.
I
Great.
have always joked about how those career progression was just byproducts.
Hmm.
Um, because people would talk to me about evaluating whether it's worthwhile to, invest in MBA, right? Then
Hmm.
I would always share my personal story being like, I think these are, invaluable assets
Yeah.
because it just completely changed how you view your life and how comfortable you are after stepping out of like some, really spaghetti bowl kind of like struggles in your life,
Mhm.
and you have a support group where they just embrace who you are.
Right. Now, being gay or having that like different sexual orientation that you have is just part of your identity. It's not like the entire Jimmy, right? But I believe, and there must be probably some influences based on that part of your identity that would inform your approach to leadership and maybe also your contributions to the fields of education, technology, and entrepreneurship. Can you maybe share that with us?
Sure. I think growing up, at least in an Asian culture, we were very well trained to be strong. It means like we always have to be presentable. We always need to show, in our CV or a personal statement where like what kind of achievements you've made. I think one element that we missed is, or at least I wish, to be taught more, is that how to be vulnerable. Because people like to really hear how you overcome difficulties, but not like, you're just born to be a success. So I think in leadership, one of the things that I demonstrate is that I tell them, hey, like what kind of tools that I use when I don't know, what to do, placing ads, or like how to, what one of the Excel, formulas that you don't know, then I tell them, yeah, Google, or now you have ChatGPT.
Hmm.
I just want to tell them like I'm not a superhero as well. I also spend time to invest, to look into the problems, and that's really important because once you open up to share about your vulnerabilities, I think people would also feel more safe to share
Hmm.
theirs as well. And that's how you kind of like build the trust, mutual trust, with respect, so that people have the what do you call, the psychological safety to share what's in their mind as well.
Yeah, because when you're vulnerable, you're basically disclosing all of these things that you may not know, and it helps them to empathize with you, right? It helps them to resonate with you. You're just a human being. You're not a superhero. And I think a lot of leaders these days who are very inspiring can demonstrate that vulnerability, and they feel safe with that too. Now, looking back at your early experiences, what advice would you give to your younger self, if you could, regarding embracing your identity and also navigating the challenges to achieve your goals?
Um, That is a super good question. And recently, what I've learned is to listen to your body, listen to the signals and what it tells you, either your physical body, whether you feel tired, or your mental health being like, you don't like somebody, or like you feel irritated by some of the comments. Um, what I'm not, or I should say, I actually like meditation being that's a moment for you to listen to these cues. Um, Sometimes if you don't spend, people would say like, oh, I don't have time to sleep. Then how am I spending time to meditate?
Hmm.
Then I tell them, hey, listen to how you speak the word. You don't have time to sleep. That exactly is, your body's telling you that you need to rest more, right? Then you start to fix everything step by step. Then the body is actually giving you answers to life, a lot of them, as long as you spend time with your body.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that I really like to do daily, because that's how you can become a better person, by taking care of your own body.
Absolutely. I think being aware and being in that self-discovery mode, especially with regards to our emotions and thoughts, that helps us to move away from being in that rat race. We're just much more conscious of how we're feeling. Because essentially, when you're in a stressful moment, typically people would just react, right? And typically they wouldn't react in the most resourceful way because they're not resilient enough. But I think the first step is really, like you said, is being in tune with your emotions and that understanding where in your body do you feel it. And meditation is, I think people may be a little bit intimidated when they hear that word. They feel that they need to have no thoughts. It needs to be all Zen, but actually it's not. It's just being present in the moment, being mindful. And I think when we're present, we don't have anxiety because we don't think about what's happening in the future because we can't change that anyway because it hasn't happened yet. And we don't have that constant worry about what's happening, what happened in the past. So like you said, meditation also something that I do on a regular basis, and that's something for another topic to talk about. I just recently started breath work. The 30-day fire breathing exercise. So for those of you who have not heard about that, that apparently is going to fire up your energy to pursue your dreams and your goals. So another topic for another podcast episode.
But that's excellent. I'm so happy, Fiona, that you're also doing that. That's one of the things that I think it's so simple, but that should be in our curriculum, you know. And I'm happy that Lux was actually putting it with kids because that's such a good practice that and you know, scientific research has already shown that's super good for our mental health as well.
Yeah. Now let's pivot over to where you are right now in venture capital. So, how do you prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion in that space within your work in venture capital? What kind of steps do you take to make sure that underrepresented voices are heard and also valued in the companies that you invest in?
I need to be straightforward and say I don't give you know, a lot of advantages even to underrep you know, parties. Reason being, our space is actually super competitive. I need to see more than like 10 startups every day to decide whether they are something that our company would be willing to invest. So I must say, my work, you know, sometimes would kind of like overlook. So that is actually a good question when you put that in. But one thing that I do put in effort is where once they pass the line,
Hmm.
once they already passed, you know, to a point where, oh, I think they are a good startup. And I would say, okay, I would spend more time to make sure that everything in the process is being well taken care of because even if you pass the line, you know, being up for consideration, there are many things that you can go wrong, being like, you know, presenting some information that is not up to our standard, whatever. So for those startups that I feel like they should receive my extra care, then I would make sure that, okay, these things are, you know, being well taken care of.
Hmm. All right. Now, you had a very, I would say, transformative career journey. When I met you, you were the founder, co-founder for a startup in education, and then you went into BCG, into consulting, and then you went on your MBA journey, and now you transitioned into venture capital. Um, how have your perspectives on diversity, equity, and inclusion evolved over this time?
Um, I I need to really give a round of applause to my boss. I think he did an excellent job in setting up a good example for me. Um, Even though I went to different industries before landing here now, I must say that the dominant culture, you know, in my past 20 years of my life studying or working in Hong Kong, it's very Asian. It's very, if can say, it's very Chinese, where your feelings are usually being neglected.
Mm.
I still remember one of the early meetings that I had with my boss, with one of the coworker in the industry. He made some gender joke. I felt it was fine because everyone is doing that. And I was very surprised that my Canadian boss asked, "Hey, Jimmy, is that okay? Like, do you feel all right?"
Hmm.
I was so surprised that he asked that question, and I told him it's actually fine because it's not even borderline offensive. It's just, a male colleague went to a club or whatever, and hinting nothing about discrimination, whatever. But I'm still happy that he checked in with me,
Hmm.
and that is so important. It sends an important message that your feelings are being valued, and my boss just, wants to know, okay, if anytime you feel being, you're not being respected or your identity, being challenged or whatever, just tell him. And I feel so warmed. I have never had a boss that would ask me that question. I'm serious. So as a subordinate, I know how that feels. Then it means like when you're a leader, when you are in that position, that simple question can change people's life,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
I learned, even your business is like worth 1 million, whatever. Just ask a simple question, how people feel, or are you feeling all right, can mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I remind myself to care about people's feelings um, in front of the business.
Yeah, it's such a simple question, but so profound. Yes, great. Now, we have a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers who feel like a misfit at some point in their lives. Given your experiences navigating different industries and identities, how would you support people who feel like misfits in their respective workplaces?
I must start with telling you how much I like your podcast where you highlighted boldly challenge norms. I just love that because you don't know how much I know that a lot of female in our finance industry, they have a lot of challenges, and I think being a male is already a privilege because like people won't put a lot, like I feel less, I would say, I as compared to my female coworkers. But still, um I still remember one time when I was at a startup event. um I was being a judge. I had to judge startups, whether they can get funding. And that receptionist was like, "Oh, startup, you should go that way," without even asking me any questions, just because I look perhaps too young, or like I didn't dress as, professional. I didn't wear, a blazer or whatever. Then, I had to like, awkwardly told her like I'm actually a judge. Um, I just want to tell people like you need to challenge your own thoughts or assumptions before you speak or you write, because that can show how naive you're actually. Like I need to use that word, like a strong word, because you like don't underestimate how strong even one assumption to others can mean to them. Um, so as a person who can feel that, I would always also try to challenge my own thoughts. Like before I make any assumptions, I need to be, very cautious about whether that sentence or the email that I type would send any other possible meanings to them. And I think that is something that I would always be, to be cautious about.
Mhm. No, that's great. It's a great reminder that we all have unconscious biases, right? That's just human nature. And it's nothing wrong with that. We're not bad humans because we have it. But I think what you're doing differently is that you catch yourself in that moment and make sure that you're not making assumptions. And I think in order for us to avoid making assumptions, one simple thing to do is just ask a good question, right? So it's fantastic once again to speak with you today. Wonderful sharing, Jimmy. Thank you so much. So as we conclude this episode, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Jimmy for sharing his insights, experiences, and passion with us. Jimmy's dedication to education, technology, and entrepreneurship, coupled with his commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, serves as a beacon of inspiration for all of us. So we hope you found this conversation as enlightening and enriching as I did. So remember, the journeys towards a more inclusive and innovative future is one we all play a part in. And let's continue to embrace diversity, celebrate uniqueness, and strive for a world where everyone can thrive. So thank you very much for tuning in to the Thriving Misfits podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for more engaging conversations with thought leaders, change makers, and visionaries. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making a difference.
Thank you so much, Fiona. And thank you so much for everyone who listened to this.